Here's a number a lot of people are proud of: their savings rate. You check your app, you see you saved 20% of your income this month, and for a second, you feel like you're winning at this whole money thing. But here's the thing nobody tells you about that number. It's often lying to you. Not on purpose, not because your bank is trying to trick you, but because the way most people calculate savings rate quietly hides how much they're actually keeping. So today, I want to break down why the savings rate on your statement isn't the number you think it is, and what the real number actually looks like once you strip away the illusion. My name is Jordan. If you've ever felt good about your savings rate and then wondered why your net worth didn't seem to match that feeling, this one's for you. All right, let's start with how most people calculate their savings rate, because it's simpler than it should be. Take your income, subtract your spending, whatever's left, divide by your income. Done. If you make $6,000 a month and spend $4,800, you saved $1,200, which is a 20% savings rate. Feels good, feels measurable. But here's where it gets really interesting. That number treats every dollar you didn't spend as if it's identical, and it's not. Because money you didn't spend includes some very different things sitting in the exact same bucket. It includes money sitting in a checking account, earning basically nothing. It includes money in a retirement account that's locked up for decades but growing. It includes home equity you can't touch without selling or borrowing. And it includes cash you're going to spend next month on something you just haven't gotten around to yet. Your bank statement doesn't distinguish between any of those. It just sees spent or not spent. And that's the first crack in the illusion. Let's put real numbers on it. Say that same person making $6,000 a month, saving $1,200, a 20% savings rate on paper. But let's look at where that $1,200 actually goes. $400 goes into a 401k. $300 goes into a savings account they're planning to use for a vacation in 4 months. $300 sits in checking, unallocated because they just haven't spent it yet. And $200 goes toward extra principal on a car loan. All 4 of those count as saved on paper, but only one of them, the 401k contribution, is actually building long-term wealth in a way that compounds for decades. The vacation fund is going to become spending in 4 months. The unallocated checking money is functionally just delayed spending, whether they've decided that yet or not. And the extra car payment is real, but it's paying down a depreciating asset, not building an appreciating one. So the honest functional savings rate in that example isn't 20%. It's closer to 7% once you separate what's actually compounding from what's just parked temporarily. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Jordan, but the vacation money and the car payment are still responsible choices. And you're right, they are. This isn't about shaming any of those categories. It's about being honest with yourself about what each dollar is actually doing, instead of lumping them all under one feel-good percentage. Here's the second crack in the illusion, and this one's sneakier. Inflation. If your income grows 3% a year and inflation runs at 3% a year, your raise didn't actually increase your purchasing power at all. But most people's mental math treats a raise as pure gain. Their savings rate calculation looks better on paper because the dollar figures went up, even though in real terms, nothing improved. This is the piece almost nobody adjusts for. A savings rate calculated in nominal dollars, the actual number on your statement, can look completely different from a savings rate calculated in real, inflation-adjusted terms. Over the last several years, with inflation running hotter than usual, this gap has been bigger than most people realize. Now, here's the third crack, and this is where it gets genuinely useful, not just theoretical. Debt paydown gets treated inconsistently depending on what kind of debt it is. Paying extra toward a mortgage principal is genuinely building equity, real appreciating net worth, even if it's illiquid. That's legitimate saving. But paying down a credit card balance that you ran up buying things you'd already consumed months ago isn't saving at all. That's just catching up on spending you already did. It looks identical on a savings rate calculation, but one is building wealth and the other is closing a gap that already existed. Think about it like this. Imagine two people both show $500 saved on a spreadsheet this month. One put $500 into an index fund. The other used $500 to pay down a credit card balance from a vacation they took 8 months ago. Same number, completely different financial reality. One is a snowball rolling forward. The other is filling in a hole that was already dug.
So here's a more useful way to actually calculate what you're keeping. Separate your saved dollars into 3 real categories. First, wealth building. Money going into retirement accounts, investment accounts, or extra principal on an appreciating asset like a primary mortgage. Second, deferred spending. Money you're setting aside for a known future expense. Vacations, holiday gifts, a car repair fund. It's responsible, but it's not wealth. It's a delay. Third, debt catch-up. Money going toward paying off spending you already did, especially high-interest debt from past purchases. Only the first category is your real functional savings rate. The other two are useful financial behaviors, but they're not the same thing, and treating them as identical is exactly what creates the illusion. Let's run the numbers on our earlier example one more time with this framework. $400 into the 401k, that's wealth building. $300 into the vacation fund and $300 sitting unallocated in checking, both deferred spending. $200 toward the car loan, debt catch-up, since a car is a depreciating asset, not equity growth in the same sense as a home. Real functional savings rate? $400 out of $6,000. That's about 6.7%, not 20%. That's not a small gap. That's the difference between believing you're on track for a comfortable retirement and actually being on track for one. Now, I want to be clear about something, because this isn't meant to make anyone feel bad about their vacation fund or their car payment. Deferred spending and debt paydown are both legitimate, healthy financial behaviors. The problem isn't doing them. The problem is mislabeling them as the same thing as wealth building when you're checking your progress. So here's your starting point. Pull up your last month of savings. Sort every dollar into one of those 3 buckets: wealth building, deferred spending, or debt catch-up. Then calculate your real percentage using only the wealth building number. It might be a smaller number than what your app shows you, and that's uncomfortable. But it's also the only version of that number that actually tells you whether you're building real, lasting financial ground, not just moving money around in a way that feels good on a screen. Because the goal was never to hit a percentage. It was to actually build wealth that compounds. And you can only manage that goal honestly once you can see it clearly, instead of through a number that's quietly counting things that were never really savings in the first place. If this changed how you're looking at your own savings rate, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments, when you actually sort your own numbers into these 3 buckets, is your real savings rate higher or lower than you expected?